What's up, Crusaders? Welcome back to another episode of Arcade Crusade. In this week's video, we are going to continue working on the road show. This will be the second video on the road show. We're going to start cleaning things up, getting everything back together, and just going from there. If you remember where we left off last time, we were testing the diode on the lamp board. So I got the lamp board on the bench right now, and I'm going to show you guys how to swap this out. So, like I said, got it on the bench. We will go through the diode test on the multimeter again. I have my soldering station and my desoldering station both heated up, so we're ready to go. But put my kickstand up. Let me make sure you guys can see that. So basically, if we test, it was D8 right here on the end, and if we test D9 next to it, we get a reading of 0.475. and D10, 0.48. D8, if we come over, no reading on both sides. And this is a N4004 diode. I have a brand new diode here for us to test, and we get a 0.546 reading and nothing the other way. So once again, that just confirms that our D8 is bad on this lamp board. Very easy to do. Just put your multimeter and diode test and test across the diode. That is all you have to do. So we're done with that, and now we can just quickly desolder this diode. So let me zoom in, and it's D8 right there, and I will flip the board over quickly. And it's just the one on the end right there. So I'll add a little solder to it just to get us started. Basically, instead of applying flux, we'll just add a little solder and get the joint heated up, and that just makes it a little bit easier. And just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and remove this bulb so it's out of the way. So now we got new solder on there. Our desoldering station is heated up. We're getting good suction. So let me spin the camera just to make sure you can actually see. All right, so I am just going to come in over the top here. And that joint is now we may need to add a little more solder to this one. This bottom one didn't want to clean up as much as I would have liked. So we'll just come back in here, add a little more solder, and take our gun. Alright, that is nice and clean now. Make sure our gun is unclogged, and we will get this out. Take your flush cutters. Alright, take your flush cutters and just clip this diode right off the board. So, right there and right there, the diode is now off. So now we have a super clean joint you can see fully through with all of our light. All we had to do is cut the diode off and just kind of pull the legs through. So, super clean joint now, and all we're gonna do is just kind of bend these legs and get ready to put this thing in. And there's actually a nice little marking on the board for which way the banded side goes, so you can just go ahead and put both legs in. There we go, we're all the way in. It's actually holding pretty well, and we are just going to see if we can get, you can kind of see that right there. We're just gonna come in with our soldering iron and add a little bit of solder on this leg. And now that that solder's on, let's just make sure our diode's nice and solid. It's nice and solid exactly the way we want it to be. So now we can just come in and add some solder on this side. And you want to keep it there just for a second to make sure the solder melts through to the other side. And we just come in with our flush cutters, and now the new diode is in place. So we don't have to worry about that happening again. And while I'm here, while we have the light board out of the game, the main header that gives you power, I want to reflow all of these headers on the board. So there's one down here, one up here, the main one here, and this one here. While we have everything heated up, let's just go ahead and come in here and reflow, and we'll double check our solder job. You can always come to the top side of the board and add a little bit of solder here. You don't have to add too much, just add a little bit to make sure you got an even amount through there, just like I'm doing here. And that just adds a little bit. So now we got a brand new diode in place, perfectly set in there, and we should have no more lamp board issues now that that has been done. So basically everything else I'm going to do is I'm just going to come through to all of these, and we are just going to add a little, let me spin this the right way, a little bit more solder. And it's good to just come in here and reflow these, because these are very common to have cracked solder joints. So if you can add new solder to all of these joints, it just really helps heat everything up. And like this one here barely had any solder on it, so. All right, and that one on the end actually has a decent amount of solder on it, so we don't need to worry about it. But now all these main headers have been reflowed. This one here looks a little dry, so we'll add a little to this one. The other two actually look pretty good. All right, now that doesn't look so dry. There we go, add a little of that one. That third one looks good. And actually the rest of this board looks good. So I'll just come back with my my brush and some alcohol and kind of clean up some of this flux that's on these. But now you can see that we can put this back in place. All right. So now you guys can see we have I got the board flipped, brand new diode at D8 right here. All good and ready to go. And solder's looking clean on both sides. We reflowed everything else, so we should be good. We can double check now that we have it in the board with our multimeter. So just go over, put it on diode, and just give it a test, and we are good. So, all right, so that was a just a quick adjustment on that. We just had to swap that diode out, and while we were here, we reflowed the headers just so this board has, you know, just so it's nice and solid for the future. We won't have any more lamp board issues. So this board has been pretty much bulletproof now. Every other light's working, all of our diodes are good. Our headers have been reflowed, any of them that looked that they were gonna crack. So now this can go back in the game. So I'm going to go over to the game and we will put this back in. All right guys, so I went ahead and remounted that light board. It was just 5 screws to put it on the bottom of the playfield. I put it on and just hooked our connectors back up. I haven't tested it yet, I just put it on the game. Before we do anything, I have a brand new metal bracket to put on the one that was broken, and I also ordered a second one to see if any of the other ones have stripped out threads. So I'm gonna put this one on and then we'll check the other ones. But the way this goes on, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug from our board here. I'm gonna unplug that just to get it out of the way, and then this is going to slide up in here, and it just kind of sneaks in here, and you can just kind of line up with the existing holes. And one thing that's good to do when you're doing this is grab your leg bolts, and I got a brand new set here. Grab your leg bolt and go ahead and shove it through the cabinet to your thread, and that is going to make lining it up like so much easier. If I could see it, that would be useful. There we go. So I like to just do this with both, and it makes it so much easier to line this thing up if you can get the holes lined up. Because really the last thing you'd want to do is put this thing on, and then you put this thing on and you find out it's not lined up. So this will help out a lot, because then you know you're lined up with your holes everywhere. So there was 8 screws on this. One of them had a ground strap, all 1/4-inch wood screws, and the ground strap one was right on the edge here, right in the middle. So we'll go ahead and put that one on first before any of the other ones. But now the new bracket's in, so we're good. Now I'm just gonna go around and test the rest of them. So our other front bracket here, top one is good. All right, bottom one is good. And of course, it had to be the one, you know, right down here. All right, so our front two are good. Let me check the back two brackets, and if those are good, we can get this thing on its legs and start doing everything else. So we got this front one on. Sometimes you got to fight it a little bit. These brackets aren't bent perfectly, but once you get it in, it's pretty good. So front one's in nice and tight. Let me take a look at the back one, see if we got to replace it. Otherwise, we'll get it on its legs. All right, guys, so I checked the other three brackets, and they are all good. So now we can just go ahead and rebuild this shooter rod, and we're keeping the rod so the rubber can come off. And actually, while I'm here, I'll remove the rubber on the other one just so both of them are off. And I mean, we've done this time and time again. I always tell people to do it because this and your flippers, in my opinion, matter the most. I'm just going to try to bend this out of the track. This one has a weird clip on it. It might be enough of a bend for us to be able to get this off. See if we can sneak this flathead in there. It's much easier with an E-clip. I don't quite know what this is. There we go. Alright, now that can pull off. We aren't going to be reusing this washer or anything. That's our spring. And we can take this off. Man, people always have these in the wrong order. So the only thing we're going to be reusing is our shooter rod here. Everything else we have new. Let's go ahead and wipe this clean. All right, so first thing we're going to slide on is our big washer, and then we have a brand new, or a big spring, and then we have a brand new washer. We have brand new coil sleeves for this. Basically, it's just going to go like this, and then we have I want to say it's a flat washer, and then the big spring. And for the flying rocks, you're going to want a green medium high tension spring. It's a little bit, Roadshow used two different tension springs. So you're going to want one of these. And then I have a new E-clip that has to go on, and once the E-clip goes on, that is it. All of this is going to get pushed back, and then our brand new E-clip is just going to get pushed on. And then now that we have our E-clip on, just go ahead and spin it, make sure it's in the track, and now our shooter rod is rebuilt. So let me move the camera over to the other side, and we will do the exact same thing over here. All right, same thing. We gotta battle this terrible E-clip. And if you can do what I'm doing and just try to get something under there and just kind of pry it off, that's your best bet. But it always wants to fall off the track on you. All right, there we go. We can take all of this off. And just completely clean this thing up and put all of our new parts on. So again, put our barrel spring and then a flat washer. And that is going to go through. Then you take your shooter sleeve and go ahead and shove that through. And then your flat washer again. On this side it uses a white spring, which is a little bit less tension than the orange or than the green. So we'll just go ahead and put the white spring on, and then if I can grab this, and then our E-clip will go on. And like I said, spin your E-clip, make sure it's fully in. And now both of them are rebuilt. And actually while we're here, I have a new coin door lock to put on. So I can do that super quick. This should take a sec. Move the camera over. All right, so the coin door on all games, you just got to figure out kind of which way you want it to go, and you got to figure out which way the key comes out. So we'll try flipping it. I don't like trying to turn it that way to unlock it. I like doing that. It's just which way you like turning the key to know if it's locked or not. So you're just going to put your ring on. Get your ring all the way on, and then you are going to take a pair of channel locks and just go ahead and come from behind and tighten this. And I got to go one channel smaller. All right, and there it is. That is tight. So now you want it locked with the key out. So the main thing you want to do is that your cam, what spins here, you want your cam sideways, whichever way the key comes out. So just like this, we want our cam sideways, and it's currently locked. So now we just put this on, and we'll tighten it up real quick. All right, and I'll get in there with a Phillips to make sure, but now our coin door closes with a lock. And what you can do, if you want to make it a little bit tighter, you can actually bend the end of your cam here, and it'll actually make it a little bit tighter so there isn't as much play in the coin door. But all right, so both shooter rods, coin door lock is on, so that's good. Let me figure out what we're gonna do next. Now I think we'll get it on its legs, and we'll go from there. It'll make everything easier once we get it on its legs. So let's get it on its legs and then go from there. All right, guys. So I got the Roadshow up on its legs. These are the original blue painted legs. I put brand new bolts in here, brand new leg levelers, so the legs actually look really good now. We got our shooter rods rebuilt, so it looks a lot better now. I touched up the coin door a few days ago, and we have a new lock on it. I started to clean the playfield a little bit, and it's actually looking really good. Haven't quite got there. I went ahead and I replaced the back glass channel because it was bent and crimped down here, and I just put this new one on. It's just a bunch of wood screws in the back, super easy to do. I didn't really think it was worth filming. And we were missing a wing bolt in the back, so that's on. And now we're at the point that we can just clean. I don't think I'm going to do a full teardown. I'm just going to take the ramps. I'm just going to take the ramps and plastics off, and then we are going to clean the entire game. We'll wax the game, and then LEDs are going to go in. So you guys have seen me do that time and time again. Ramps are actually pretty easy to take off on this game. So the first thing you want to take off is you need to unhook your switches from under the playfield, obviously. First thing you want to take off is flying rocks. Once you get flying rocks off, your 3 wire forms here can come off. The whole middle of the playfield's then empty. And then once those are off, you can very easily take off your plastic ramps with like 4 screws there and 4 screws behind red. That can all slide out. Those are going to be the ramps that I take out, and then we'll just go through, kind of clean up plastics and everything. But ramps will be super easy to take off in this game, so it's not even really worth filming. So I'm just going to start cleaning and changing out LEDs, and we'll start putting new rubbers on, and we'll do all that, and we'll see where we end up there. So I'm gonna start doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's in really good shape. Buttons are cleaned up, cabinet looks great. So this one just needs the LEDs. I also got some custom instruction cards made, so we'll put those on, but it just needs LEDs, clean wax, and rubbers, and that is it. Then we'll be ready to play this one for a little bit and then let it go. So pretty much my Pinball Life package, all that's left, this is all the old stuff. I took the batteries out. This I'm keeping just to have on hand for another game if I need it. Whenever I do a game, I try to order about 5 of these plastic twist wedges. So I got 5 of those, and then our 4 balls. And aside from that, we just have a rubber kit to put on and LEDs. So we're in good shape. Let me drop this. But I mean, yeah, this thing looks great now. So, and we're completely rebuilt. We're ready to, clean, wax, and rubber. So I'm just gonna start doing that, and I'll update you guys just somewhere along the way if I run into any issues, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm gonna start swapping over to LEDs and tearing things down. All right, guys. So about where I'm at, I think I'm gonna stop for the night, and we are gonna come back a different day and finish everything off. So right now, basically I took our ramps off. I still have the wire forms off right now, but I took our ramps off. I took Red and Ted's helmets off with 1 screw each. I cleaned all in there. Basically I cleaned and I re-rubbered the entire playfield. All the plastics I took off one by one and cleaned them. All the flippers were cleaned, all of our targets, everything was cleaned. And all the rubbers were replaced with black rubbers. So we got brand new fresh rubbers on this game. Everything is cleaned. This game has now been waxed. Basically I put the wax on, let it sit for about 20-25 minutes so it hazes, wipes it off, but super clean right now. The only thing I have left to do is just go through and do LEDs under the playfield. So I did all of these LEDs up here because they're really easy to reach. I still have to put the Cliffy on, all of our decals on, the rest of our LEDs. And once I do all of that, then this game will be done. So it was actually really easy to get these ramps off here. It was just a few screws lift off, and then you can get to the entire orbit behind Red and Ted's head. Ted, it drops behind his head and comes out by flying rocks. So everything's been cleaned, waxed, re-rubbered. Now we just got to finish with the LEDs. Our Cliffy has to go on, and then there's a few more things I need to figure out, and this thing will be done. So I'm just gonna stop there for today, and then in the next episode we'll go ahead and finish this one out. So you know, pretty happy with how it turned out so far. It looks really good. Really good for the condition that I got it in. So that super bright. That pretty much wraps up this week's episode. It's just, you know, intro roadshow stuff. You know, in the first pickup one, we diagnosed some stuff. Now we put our lamp board back on with our new diode, and we got our new cabinet bracket on. We got it on its legs. We got it completely cleaned up and rubbered. So now it's just putting the finishing touches on, and this thing will be like done. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up this week's episode. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next week.